Let's get into
Awesome.
it.
Awesome. Yeah, Nick, I appreciate you coming to the Travis Goodwin show. I've been following you for a while, man. I know all about you. I think we're in the Rhino tribe together with
Yes,
Brent
sir.
Daniels.
Yes, sir.
But for those who may not know, let's just, introduce yourself and tell people what you do.
Yeah, definitely. So, I am a real estate investor out of Tampa, Florida. I specialize in wholesaling. That's the majority of what I do. I'll fix and flip a couple houses a year, and then I have some rental properties and stuff like that. But my main business is wholesaling, and I got started in 2020 through Brent Daniels. Like you said, we're both in his community still. And he was my first mentor. And long story short, I was in college when COVID started. I was finishing up college. I had already gotten my degree, but I was planning on going into graduate school. So I was taking prerequisite classes that I didn't get with my major, but I needed before I could go to grad school. So I was in college taking those classes, and the whole world shut down from COVID. And so I decided during quarantine, I was like, do I really want to go to graduate school? Is that really the path I want to take? Right. And I ultimately decided no. And I had always been interested in real estate, but I had never really looked at the different avenues of it. Right. So when COVID started, I was looking into, well, I actually did start going to school to get my license to be a real estate agent. Right. Because I figured, hey, that's probably the best way to get started. And I did get my license, but then right after I passed the test to get my license, before I had ever hung it with a brokerage, I was interviewing with a couple different brokerages. And then I came across Brent Daniels on YouTube talking about wholesaling. And I was like, this sounds way better than being an agent or, anything else, really. I just fell in love with the idea. So I joined Brent's program. I moved down to Tampa, didn't know anybody, didn't have any connections, didn't have any experience, but I just kind of took the information in that program and I just started making cold calls, man. Just started pulled a list of tired landlords and just started hitting the phones day in and day out. It took me about 3 months to close my first deal, but then after that, I was able to do about a half a million in assignment fees over the next 12 months after that, and that was in 2021. And now fast forward to 2025, I have a team of 8 full-time employees, six of them being virtual assistants in other countries, and we're a seven-figure company now. So it's been, and we do again mostly it's wholesale, but we also will do a little bit of fix and flip. We do some creative finance and novation agreements, but I would say nine out of every 10 deals we do is just a straight cash wholesale deal.
Oh, that's amazing, man. Those are the best deals.
That's it.
Um,
Ugly houses, big checks, man.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. So how are you guys? Are you guys still cold calling? Like, how are you finding these deals today in
Yeah, prime.
2025?
Yeah, primarily cold calling. That's our biggest marketing channel. I would say our second biggest is radio. I run radio ads. So if you listen to 105.5 The Dove around the Tampa Bay area, you'll hear me on there 5 times a day. That is probably our second biggest marketing channel as far as a deals and profit standpoint. And then other than that, it's a bunch of referrals, pocket listings. We know a lot of agents around here that know that we do good business. So yeah, but mainly cold calling and radio and referrals.
That's awesome, man. So I've, I started this a few months back now, and I've over 30 episodes in, you're the second person that's mentioned radio. There's not many people doing
Yeah.
it. So how did that come to happen?
Yeah, so actually in the Wholesaling Inc. program, I remember I don't know if they still do it too much anymore, but they used to have like a whole show just for radio ads,
Yeah.
and it used to be a thing. I can't remember the person that was running it,
Was
but
it was
I
it Chris or something? Was his name Chris?
no, it was a woman. It was a
Okay.
woman. I can't remember because I ended up interviewing or doing a podcast with her on the Wholesaling Inc. podcast after we closed like a $200,000 deal from the radio within like the first 6 months. So she wanted me to come back. Man, I'm struggling to remember what her name was, but Wholesaling Inc. was essentially
Yeah.
where I decided to run radio ads. And I mean, yeah, it's not a very common one, but if you think about it, who's the average, avatar of somebody that's going to sell their house at wholesale price, right? It's usually somebody that's in their 50s and 60s that they've had a rental property that they haven't been updating, they haven't been keeping it up with. So they're ready to, trade some equity in their property for the speed and convenience of a cash offer. So I was like, man, I don't know many people that listen to radio, but I know that I know that boomers do. I know that
Yeah.
older people do. So we started running radio ads on the classic rock station here in Tampa Bay, and that's become a pretty good marketing channel for us.
That's really cool. Are you like the voice on these radio
Mhm.
commercials?
Yep.
How does it go? Can you give me a short
Man,
sample?
I haven't listened to the actual ad in a long time, but it's essentially like hey, I'm a private real estate investor here in Tampa Bay and I'm looking to purchase properties. I can buy them in any condition. I cover all the closing costs, pay cash, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. It's kind of like a condensed little version of our pitch to sellers, but it's like, hey, if you're looking to sell your property quickly for cash, call my team, call us. I direct them to the website. I have a phone number on there, but it's essentially like, hey, if you want to sell your property, pay no commissions, no closing costs, and pick the day that you want to close and make it just a simple, easy, hit the easy button. That's what we tell sellers a lot. And I think that I say that in the radio ad, and we are the easy button, right? And that's
Yeah.
what we tell sellers all the time. Look, if you want to get the best price that you can for your property, if your biggest goal is getting the highest price tag, then hire an agent. That's what they're for.
Yeah.
That's no, we're not your buyer if that's the case. If that's what you're looking for, we're not your buyer. If you want to hit the easy button and you want to make this just the most simple transaction that you've ever had, that's where we come in. So it's trying to convey that message out to the masses. Like, hey, if you're looking to sell quickly, you're not necessarily interested in getting the highest price that you possibly can, but you want to get a deal done like that, give us a call.
Yeah, man. We offer that speed and convenience. That's what our value is, as wholesalers and investors. So, I would assume, I've never done radio, but I would assume compared to cold calling, it's not as many leads, but I'm sure that these leads are like on fire usually, right?
Yes. Yep. Yep. A lot of them are that we don't get as many leads from cold call or I'm sorry, from radio as we do
Yeah.
from cold calling on a weekly, monthly basis. But yeah, typically the people that do call, they're often ready to roll, right? I mean, we get those people that we call them, they're looking for free appraisals. They're not
Yeah.
really interested in selling the property. They just want to know if I did ever decide theoretically. It's like the same person that goes on like Kelly Blue Book just to check out what they could get for their car, even though they have no intention of selling. They're just curious, right? We get a lot of those, but yeah, the radio has definitely produced some people that like, hey, I'm ready to sell. Come out and give me an offer. I'm ready to go. And so those leads are always a lot of fun.
Sweet, sweet. So let's say I'm riding down the road and I hear your commercial. I decide to call. What happens next? Who do I talk to and how does the process go?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you went to our website and you filled out a form, well, either way, you're going to end up talking to my acquisition manager, Gabe. He is the guy that receives most of the inbound calls. And if you were to fill out a form, then he would most likely give you a call to it. If he was too busy, you might hear from Bella, who's a virtual assistant on my team, who's our lead manager. But a lot of the time, especially with those inbound marketing channels, I want my acquisition manager on that quickly. So yeah, he'll typically, if you call in, obviously he's gonna answer the phone and he'll take you through the qualification calls, right? They're asking you about the condition of the property, why you want to sell, when you want to sell, get a little bit of information. And then if you fill out a form, obviously he's going to call you and same thing.
Sweet, sweet. So as far as cold calling, I know on average it takes like 90 days to convert that lead. What
Mhm.
would you say for these radio leads?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I actually don't know. I don't have that statistic or that KPI. That would be a really good one for me to have. I'm guessing here, but I would guess out of the ones that are like quality opportunities that like we end up putting under contract, it's probably a matter of a couple of weeks.
Sweet, sweet. Yeah, that's
There's a lot of them that they'll come in and we'll put them under contract like that week. But I would say the average one we probably have to follow up with for a couple of weeks before we put under contract, which is a lot shorter than your average cold call sales cycle, right?
yeah. So with the cold calls, like how does that process work on your team? Like, do you have VAs out of the country? I know you mentioned them. Are they the ones doing these calls?
Yes. Yep. So I have four virtual assistants that just cold call all day. And they are in the Philippines. All of them are in the Philippines except one that's in Croatia, but she was in the Philippines when I hired her, and then she ended up moving to Croatia. So they're all from the Philippines. But yeah, they do go out and they call through the list. They pre-qualify the sellers to the best of their abilities, but they're never one thing that we do that I think a lot of maybe other wholesaling companies don't do is those people never ever ever talk numbers. They're never making offers. They're never like comping the property and
Yeah.
like trying to negotiate with the seller. Their job is to do nothing but make a good first impression, collect some information from them as far as again the four pillars of qualification, the motivation or the condition of the property, the motivation, timeline, and asking price. They're going to try to get as much information from them on the first call as they can without like pushing and sounding salesy, right? We want to come off, make a good impression, get that seller to understand who we are and the value that we can provide. And then they send it into our CRM. And then my lead manager and acquisition manager take it from there. But one thing and I think that has really, um, that's come to benefit us a lot because I was just in a house the other week. My acquisition manager actually lives in Wisconsin, so he's not here physically in Tampa, but he locks up most of our deals over the phone. And then the ones that the people that, they need somebody to come out and see them in person, I'll go out there. But I was just out in the property last week, and I get this pretty regularly, where people will say like, "Hey, I usually don't even answer these cold calls, or I shut people down immediately." But there was something different about the way that you guys talked that it just kept me on the phone,
Yeah.
and I think that that's definitely I love hearing stuff like that because it's a testament to the fact that we're not trying to. They're salespeople, right? They're people that are trying to get sales, but they're not pushing sales. All they're trying to do is make connections, make a good first impression, and then tee it up for our acquisition manager.
Love it, man. That's so good. I agree. I find that that's so true. If you can just be a little different, definitely on that first phone call, that
Yes.
first phone call, if you can just sound a little different than everybody else, they're usually going to take time to talk to you.
Hmm.
So that's awesome that you have a good team and that it looks like you've trained them. It sounds like you've trained them very well. And that was going to be my next question. So do you still go into these houses was my question, but you answered it. Um, are you guys just focused on the Tampa area?
Yeah, so we actually literally starting this week, we started calling in Orlando.
Okay.
But yeah, but before that, we were all in Tampa Bay. So we'll do like the 5 counties, 4 or 5 counties around Tampa. We do Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pasco, Sarasota County, and Manatee County. That's like our main areas of where we're doing business. But yeah, we are, as of this week, expanding into Orange County and starting to make calls over there too. So.
That's awesome, man. So what made you want to expand?
Well, actually, we have been cold calling for so long that the lists are kind of getting a little bit repetitive, and we have a lot of sellers in our system to where like we're doing a lot of follow up. We're still getting new sellers every week, obviously, but I decided to take one of our callers that because we before we had all 4 of our callers all dialing in the Tampa Bay area, and we're like I said, we're still sending in leads, but we noticed that there's a little bit of a tick down of lead or like people that we're calling that we already have in our system
Yeah.
from other cold calls. So it's like, hey, instead of doing this, let's just go into a whole different market and just copy and paste what we're doing right now and bring it into Orlando, which is the closest metro area to ours, and it's a pretty similar real estate market from a wholesaling perspective, at least. So just copying and pasting what we're doing now and putting it in an area with fresh leads.
Yeah, man. That sounds like you guys are about to start crushing it in Orlando next.
I'm excited to see it. The caller that we put on the Orlando list on Monday, she's got the most leads out of anybody this week on the team. So good
Oh,
stuff.
wow.
Yeah, so it's
That's
exciting.
interesting,
It's
huh?
encouraging first few days.
Yeah, man, that's great. So, I know about your team. Are you the only like leader here? I mean, or do you have a partner that you're doing this with?
No, I'm the only owner of the company. I don't have any partners or anything, but my acquisition manager, he's been my best friend since I was in 5th grade. He actually was my first hire. So we've known each other, like I said, since 5th grade and been best buddies ever since then. Um, I moved down here and I started doing deals. And he was working back home in Michigan at a job that he was paying the bills, but it wasn't something that fulfilled him. He wasn't he
Sure.
wasn't loving what he was doing. He didn't see a path for growth through it. So I was like, man, come down and help me out, man. Get on the phones. I'll get you down here. I'll teach you everything I know, right? And he did. He took that leap of faith. He came down. I put him on the phones, and he started getting deals within about a month and a half. And now he runs the acquisition side of the company. So I couldn't have done it without him. He's been absolutely crucial to the growth of the business, but he makes a very good salary, but I'm the only owner of the company.
Awesome, awesome, man. That's really cool. I know that partnering sometimes it can be a headache. So
And
what
that's
made
actually
you do
something
that
that
from the
Brent
jump?
said. That Sorry to cut you off. That's actually
Mhm.
something that Brent says is it's like in a wholesaling company, it's not that being a partner, not that you can't do it, but it definitely makes things harder, right? I think the way that he puts it, like there's got to be just one person on the white horse. There's got to be just
Yeah,
one captain in there, right? It's great to have a team, and Brent does the same thing. His company is filled with like friends and family, but he's
yeah.
the captain, right? And I think that that's probably, especially in a wholesaling company where you're staying lean and you're trying to not grow and be a huge like Fortune 500 company. It probably makes sense to just have one person at the helm and then have a really good team around them. So that's what we've done, and it's worked.
I love it, man. And I think Brent has like the perfect wholesale model for his
Oh,
business.
absolutely.
Like if you're looking at, how to have an actual operation wholesaling, he's the great example for it. I love Brent, man.
Absolutely.
Brent's the
Brent's a great
best.
guy.
Yeah. So, what's the plans for the rest of the year, Nick? Like I know, you got Orlando going, you got a team that's going strong. Where do you want to see yourself at the end of the year?
Yeah, that's a good question. So our goal for this year is to do 1.5 million in top line assignment fees. We did 1 million last year, so I want to get that to 1.5 million this year. And then I actually started a coaching program as well. Towards the end of this past year, I started a coaching program where I offer private coaching to wholesalers that either are just getting started or maybe they've gotten a handful of deals or they're just trying to gain that momentum and turn it into a business. And that's been doing really, really well. It's been super fulfilling to see people come in and get results. So I want to continue to grow that, continue to help more people, and then yeah, get 27 properties, which is my wholesaling company, get us to 1.5 million. And if we can look up at the end of the year and have both of those be done, that'd be good.
Man, I think it's totally doable. You have a goal in mind, and it seems like you're going after it more and more each day.
Yes,
So
sir.
that's incredible, man. I mean, I don't know what I mean. So as far as you went from doing things on your own, right? And you got up to maybe six figures, right? How does one get from six figures to seven figures? Like, how did you do it?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's all about systems because I struggled to get there for years. I did 500,000 in my first year, and then we didn't do 1 million until year four. So you'd think like, right, you'd think if I come out of the gates and do a 500,000 my first year, you'd think I'd be able to easily cross 1 million within a year or two, but that wasn't the case. And the biggest reason for that was not focusing on lead generation. I started hiring, but I wasn't putting the right butts in the right seats, right? I was
Yeah.
hiring people that maybe weren't the right fit for what we were looking to do. And we got distracted as far as we started looking into other marketing channels. We started getting distracted with getting out into the community more, which has all been great. That's all had awesome effects. And now we have a pretty darn good reputation in the Tampa Bay area, probably largely because of our efforts in like 2022 and 2023 to get out there. But from a scaling perspective of getting from six figures to seven figures, that's probably the biggest mistake that we made was instead of focusing on we were focusing on trying to get out and network and do all this sort of stuff instead of focusing on, hey, what have we already done? Let's build a full system around this and turn this into a predictable, scalable business where we're focused on the top of the funnel. I always say like the wholesaling company, it's like a funnel of leads, right? You get them in the top of the funnel and then it comes down. That's your follow-up process, your acquisitions process, and then your dispo process at the bottom of the funnel. What we were doing was we were trying to focus on the middle of the funnel without putting a lot of attention onto the top of the funnel and continuing to get quality leads in the door every single day, every single week, every single month. And when we finally started to flip our priorities back to, hey, lead generation above all, that's when we started really seeing like consistency and exponential growth.
Yeah, man, I think we all go through that, especially anybody that's really into this business. We get to a point where there's so many shiny objects, like Brent talks about, right? And the biggest thing, like you said, revenue in first position. Do the
Mm-hmm.
things that's going to bring you revenue each day. Talk to the leads, quality conversations. So let's reverse it and let's say I'm just getting started today. I'm learning from YouTube. I haven't even made a call yet. What
Yep.
advice could you give someone to get up to that $500,000 within the next 12 months?
Great question. I tell people all the time that there are two big mistakes that I see new wholesalers make that keep them from either getting their first deal or getting like the consistency to where they can get to a deal a month, two deals a month, three deals a month, whatever it is, whatever their goal is. A lot of the two main reasons I see people not be able to get there is because the first one, they are inconsistently marketing, right? They are one week they'll cold call, then the next week they're door knocking, then the next week they're driving for dollars. They're doing all this different sort of stuff because they're like, man, I've been cold calling for 2 weeks and I don't have any deals yet. I don't have any really good leads yet. I think I'm going to try door knocking. Man, door knocking's not working. I'm going to send some direct mail, right? That sort of stuff. And they never do anything long enough to see the results. That's mistake number one. So I would tell them pick one marketing channel and just get really, really good at it. Don't worry about other marketing channels until you've made this one stable, consistent, and predictable. right? That's the first piece of advice I'd give them. The second piece of advice, which is the second biggest mistake that I see new wholesalers making, is they spend all their time, or they spend too much time with bad leads, right? Disqualifying a lead is just as important as qualifying a lead, maybe even more important, because you know, anybody that's been making phone calls, anybody that's been looking for deals, you know exactly the seller that I'm talking about. They have a house that's maybe it could use a little bit of updating, but it's in fine shape, right? They could put it on the market. And they say something like, "Yeah, I mean, it's probably worth 300, but tell you what, I'll cut you a deal. You can get it for 250." Something like that, right? They're willing to maybe give a little bit of a discount, but nowhere near the discount that a wholesaler would actually need to have it at.
Yeah.
Um, and what a lot of new wholesalers will do is they'll go out and see that property. They'll go out and spend an hour on an appointment with that seller. They'll be doing comps for days on that property. I've seen people that they'll bring me this like whole pamphlet of like comps and like neighborhood research and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, man, we need this for, he's saying his bottom dollar is 250. We need this for 160 or we're not making money. Right.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, they'll spend so much time with those leads that like, they're just tire kickers. They'll accept maybe a little bit of a discount, but nowhere near. They basically want retail, but they don't want to pay a real estate agent, right? They're hoping that
Sure.
some investor will just come and just buy it for top dollar so they can just get it done quickly. But a lot of new wholesalers, they'll spend a lot of time with that lead. And every minute that you spend with a lead like that, you're not on the phone with somebody that actually has a real problem that is actually going to sell the property to you at a discount that's big enough for you to make money.
Mm.
So I would tell them pick one marketing channel and get really good at qualifying leads. And what does that look like? Focus on people that have problems. If somebody's biggest problem is that they want to downsize or they want to move closer to their family, that's not a problem. That might be a problem for them. That might be a motivation for them, but that's not going to be motivation enough for them to sell their $300,000 house for 160,000,
Yeah.
right? So, yep, consistent marketing and making sure that you're dealing with actual motivated sellers that have problems. That's the
Yeah,
two
man.
biggest pieces of advice I give somebody.
Yeah, I love it. I think that both of those, that's very good advice. So, your coaching program, I'd like to get into that a little bit with you.
Mhm.
What exactly are you helping people with?
Yeah, so I'm helping people with, I mean, a lot of that exact stuff because that's again the biggest stuff that I see is people just they have very they don't have a narrow focus, right? They're throwing stuff at the wall trying to get it to stick, right? Either they're just getting started and they are in the analysis paralysis phase where they're just absorbing all of this information and not actually taking any action. That's one type of person. The next type of person, they are taking action, but they're going all over the place and it's very not strategic. It's very haphazard action, which is better than no action, but it's still not going to it's if you focus that action a little bit better and you have systems and processes in place, then that's going to get you closer to a deal. So what I try to do is I try to get them to understand from a fundamental standpoint what does a wholesaler, what is our value add to the marketplace? It's not to go find people that they'll take a slight discount and we might be able to move their deal for a couple $1,000s, but most likely we'll probably have to cancel on them, right? That's not the value add that a wholesaler has. A wholesaler has to identify people who have problems that they can solve and then work to actively solve those problems. And then obviously you put them under contract and you move it to a buyer. But the biggest thing is, again, people just they spend too much time with bad leads. Because if you think about it, I think the statistics are like 4 to 6% of any real estate market is actually in what we call distress.
Yeah.
The rest, 94 to 96% of the market, they're people that are going to put the property on the MLS with an agent, right? So the biggest part about wholesaling is narrowing your focus, identifying who your seller is, identifying the person that's going to work with you, and then making just an all-out effort to solve those people's problems and get them to know, like, and trust you.
Yeah.
So that's what the community is about. Is to try to get people to narrow their focus to understand who they're actually out there trying to serve, because there's a really big misunderstanding about that. So I try to get people to narrow their focus and have the right, I don't want to say script, but have the right attitude when they're talking to these people. Like, we don't have any scripts in our program or in my company. Even we don't really have any scripts. We just have the 4 pillars of qualification, which
Yeah.
I've talked about 3 or 4 times on this call alone, right? That's it. All comes back to that. um in our first call, our cold calls they're not scripted. They're just, hey, We need as much of this information as possible while you are making a good first impression, right? So it's just breaking down little stuff like that. That's just a mindset shift on a lot of different things that you can see a lot of the time the light bulb goes off in their head. They're like, oh man, I've been thinking about this wrong the whole way. Like right there, they're out calling on listings that were just listed 10 days ago and super lowballing them. And then they get frustrated that they're not getting any deals. It's like, think about who that person is that put that house on the market. They went and they hired an agent and said, I want you to sell this for as high as you can possibly sell this for, and I'm going to pay you a commission to do it. So why would they ever accept your offer for $150,000 less than the listing price when they just put it on the market last week, right?
Yeah.
That's not the person that you're going to solve. You need, or that's not the person you're going to serve. You're going to serve the person that they, even the thought of talking to a real estate agent makes them want to throw up, right? Because they're so sick of the house. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to have people coming in and out of the property, inspections, appraisals, all that sort of stuff. So it's just getting people to narrow their focus because it's a simple business. Wholesaling is a very simple business. It's people that complicate it, right?
Yeah.
So it's narrowing your focus, identifying your seller, and just perfecting your processes to solve that seller's problem. So that's what I try to teach people.
Man, you're doing a great job. I watch you on Facebook, and I just watch the content you're putting out, and I just can't wait to see where this goes for you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because I know coaching's a little new for you, and I think you're gonna take off with it just like you did with wholesaling. Um, so how can people reach you, man? If they want, advice or want to look into the coaching, how can they contact you?
Yeah, for sure. So my Instagram handle, I'm pretty sure it's just Nick underscore Kamrada, Nick. Well, you can see my name at the bottom of the screen. So Nick underscore Kamrada, you can hit me up there on Instagram. Same thing on Facebook. I'm probably most responsive on Instagram. But yeah, hit me up. I'm happy to help anybody.
Awesome. I'm gonna put your Instagram in the description. So anybody that's watching, if you want to contact Nick, just click the link. Looks like we're running out of time here, man. I do appreciate you. If you could leave these fine people with one good thing, it could be business, life, just whatever gem you could leave them with, what would it be?
Go read The Go Giver. Go
Mm,
read the book, The Go Giver. If you haven't, read it. It'll change your life. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, even if you're not a real estate investor, just understanding that flip the thought of success from I need to go and get to I need to go and give. You can get anything in this world. You can obtain anything in this world by helping other people get what they want. So
awesome.
go out and find people to serve, go out and find problems to solve, and that's how you're going to solve all of your own problems.
Well, guys, he just gave you literally 30 minutes of game. You could take everything that he said in this interview and you could get started right now just off what he's saying. But if you do need an extra hand, you need somebody to hold it, Nick's there. I don't coach. Nick's the coach you want to go to. So, just click the link, Instagram, DM him, and see what you guys can work out. I appreciate you, Nick, and I hope to have you back on later this year to get an update from you.
Thanks a lot, Travis.